Did I just see what I think I saw? Did your boy KTV just see what he think?
At long last, the moment fans, coaches, and players have been waiting for is here. After countless games where the whistle stayed silent while Caitlin Clark was hip-checked, shoved, and hammered, clearly facing treatment that suggested the league didn't want her to dominate, the situation has finally reached a breaking point. Coaches pleaded for fair play and were brushed off, told to simply adapt. Now, federal authorities have stepped in, launching an investigation into the WNBA.
The FBI starts sniffing around, starts digging around, starts flipping through pages, looking into the WNBA.
This isn't rumor. This isn't overhyped fan talk. This is a full-blown government investigation into whether WNBA games were being influenced, if referees were guided, outcomes manipulated, all to protect the league's image. At the center of it all, Caitlin Clark, the biggest star the league has produced in decades, the player who brought the spotlight, yet seemingly got the least protection. This goes far beyond simple officiating mistakes. It's about integrity, credibility, and accountability. Investigators are digging to uncover who issued directives and why. Federal investigations don't happen because a fan complained or a coach raised an eyebrow. They happen because patterns emerge. Patterns serious enough that someone in authority says this requires scrutiny. That's where the WNBA stands now. Federal agents are combing through internal communications, referee assignments, evaluations, and executive decision-making. They're trying to determine if this season's inconsistent officiating was just random, or if it was intentional. The question is simple, but devastating. Were calls being influenced to shape outcomes, or to protect a narrative? This isn't casual basketball debate anymore. It's professional competition under a microscope for potential misconduct. The spotlight isn't just on what occurred on the court, it's on why it kept happening and whether referees were instructed to allow it. That's the line between a missed call and a manipulated system. And here's the real bombshell. The probe isn't stopping at the referees. League leadership, including Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, is under review, the very person tasked with safeguarding the sport's integrity. When leadership itself is questioned, the league's foundation is being examined. This didn't happen overnight. The warning signs have been there all season. From opening night, something about officiating felt off. Coaches weren't just frustrated, they were confused. Fouls that were called one game were ignored the next. Clear violations were waved off with no explanation. Players adapted, but the inconsistencies persisted. This wasn't a rough patch in officiating. It was a season-long breakdown in consistency. Teams had to adjust. Instead of focusing purely on game strategy, rotations, spacing, pace, coaches found themselves preparing players for survival in physical matchups, not for fair competition. When your game plan becomes brace for collisions, something is fundamentally wrong. Yet the league stayed silent, insisting officiating was within range. Meanwhile, fans watching could see the chaos for themselves. Every possession felt unpredictable, not because of skill or tactics, but because the whistle had its own agenda. That's where tension started to build. Basketball works because it has rules. You compete within them, you win within them. But when the rules feel optional, when outcomes feel influenced instead of earned, people start paying attention. That's how the investigation gained traction. And then something extraordinary happened. Referees themselves began speaking out. Normally, officials operate in silence, bound by professional codes, confidentiality, and internal accountability. Their credibility relies on neutrality, or at least the appearance of it. For them to step forward is rare, and it signals just how deep this crisis runs. When multiple WNBA referees reportedly gave sworn testimony, it sent shockwaves through the league. Just the fact that they spoke under oath shows how serious things had become. According to these accounts, the referees weren't merely missing calls. They were allegedly being instructed on how to officiate certain players in certain moments, not based on the rules, but based on what would make the league look best. In other words, officiating wasn't just about basketball. It was about shaping perception. These referees didn't make public statements or give interviews. They testified under oath, where lying carries legal consequences, and their testimonies pointed all the way up the chain of command. That's the line where fair officiating ends and manipulation begins. Missing a call happens, adjusting for physicality is part of the game, but directing referees to protect an image instead of ensuring fairness, that's something entirely different. To understand why anyone would try to control attention, we have to look at who and what was drawing it. The phrase that keeps surfacing in discussions about the investigation is, protect the league's image. On the surface, it sounds harmless, like a marketing slogan, but testimony and analyst insights suggest it went much deeper. The idea was reportedly, don't let one player dominate the spotlight. Don't make the league look dependent on a single superstar. Don't let one athlete overshadow the rest. In theory, it sounds like long-term planning. In practice, if officiating was influenced by that reasoning, it becomes manipulation, turning competition into a tool for branding. If the league was worried about attention focusing too much on one player, that's not a basketball problem, it's a PR problem, and PR concerns shouldn't dictate officiating. Investigators are now trying to determine one critical question. Was officiating being used to manage narrative rather than regulate play? Because if calls on the court are being influenced by image concerns, then competition becomes a performance. And you can't have true basketball and controlled perception at the same time. At the center of this controversy was Caitlin Clark. When Clark entered the WNBA, she didn't just bring skill, she brought momentum. Every arena she entered sold out, ticket prices soared from $15 to $300, TV ratings and viewership reached unprecedented heights. Merchandise sales exploded. Fans who had never watched women's basketball before were suddenly tuning in. Clark didn't just play, she shifted the entire league's energy. Yet despite being the league's most valuable player, she reportedly received the least protection. Game after game, she absorbed contact that would send other players to the free throw line. Shoulder checks, hip collisions, arm grabs, while referees often stayed on the sidelines. Fans weren't asking for favoritism, they were asking for basic enforcement of the rules. The gap between her value to the league and the treatment she received became impossible to ignore. Allegedly, the reasoning wasn't about Clark's talent, it was about her impact. League leadership reportedly feared the WNBA would become the Caitlin Clark League, with every headline revolving around her. Instead of embracing the momentum she brought, officials allegedly allowed more physical play against her, with fewer fouls called. The unspoken directive was clear: slow her down, spread the spotlight, and don't let one star overshadow the league. But here's the flaw in that logic. When a superstar elevates the league rises with them. Throughout history, every major sport has been defined by singular figures who elevate the entire game. Michael Jordan, Serena Williams, Tiger Woods, Tom Brady. True greatness doesn't overshadow a league, it builds it. Caitlin Clark is doing exactly that in the WNBA. She continues to compete at the highest level, carrying the league both financially and culturally, all while taking hits without whistles protecting her. Her composure under such relentless pressure is exactly why her supporters have only grown stronger, and this is where the spotlight shifts directly to league leadership, specifically Commissioner Cathy Engelbert. Engelbert has built her public image as a calm, visionary leader, always discussing expansion, partnerships, branding, and long-term strategy. But leadership isn't defined by press statements. Leadership is measured by decisions. And right now, investigators are scrutinizing whether those decisions played a role in patterns of manipulated officiating. No one is claiming Engelbert personally told referees how to call games, but the inquiry is examining whether her administration, executive directives, or operational strategies prioritize protecting the league's image over ensuring competitive fairness. And that distinction matters, because if outcomes were influenced, even subtly, it crosses the line into organizational misconduct. Engelbert's public demeanor hasn't helped. Watching Caitlin Clark take repeated hits without a whistle, while Engelbert remained composed and seemingly detached courtside, did not inspire confidence. Some fans joked that Engelbert was protecting the league. Protecting it from what? Success. But humor fades quickly when federal investigators are involved. Here's the gravity of the situation. If evidence shows games were influenced, referees directed, and outcomes intentionally shaped, this isn't just controversy, it's sports fraud. Manipulating competition is illegal. It doesn't matter if the motive was marketing, balance, or perceived fairness. Altering outcomes deliberately misrepresents the results, and that is a legal issue. This is why federal authorities are involved. This goes far beyond fines, statements, or PR damage control. If evidence implicates leadership, it could result in resignations, structural oversight reforms, removal of executive authority, and even legal consequences. Once fans suspect competition is manipulated, trust, the foundation of sports, collapses instantly. The WNBA now stands at a crossroads. The investigation's findings will determine whether the league grows stronger or fractures. If cleared, the league must rebuild trust through transparency and accountability. If manipulation is confirmed, a full structural overhaul will be required to restore fairness. Either way, change is inevitable. Sponsors won't invest in a league where results feel influenced. Network networks won't broadcast a product fans don't trust. Players won't dedicate their careers to a system where earning success doesn't guarantee receiving it. And in the eye of this storm is Caitlin Clark. Despite chaos, allegations, and scrutiny, she has done one thing consistently: play basketball. No complaints, no retaliation. No public commentary, just professionalism. She has carried the league's visibility on her shoulders while absorbing physicality that would have broken many others. She became the face of the league not because she demanded it, but because she earned it. While executives defend decisions, investigators comb documents, and analysts debate fairness, Caitlin Clark continues to raise the level of play. She is doing her part. Now the league must decide if it will do its own. The WNBA has been gifted a generational talent capable of lifting the sport to unprecedented heights. But a gift only transforms when it is protected, supported, and respected. If the league chooses integrity, transparency, and accountability, Caitlin Clark will be remembered as the player who revolutionized the sport. But if leadership prioritizes image control over fairness, everything she has built risks being undermined.